And now Ronnie Brown.
Good evening. Good evening, excuse me. 9/11 is the type of event where everybody knew exactly where they were and exactly what they were doing when they first heard the news. I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. There were 12 of us, all retired firefighters, and we were doing what retired firefighters do, like golf. The day of 9/11, we put in a long, emotionally exhausting day. Myself in particular. I had two sons on the New York City Fire Department, Danny and Stephen. And it wasn't until late on the day of 9/11 that I received word that they were all right, that their names would not be on that memorial around the corner. But now we're in Myrtle Beach. We have to get back to New York City. We have to get back to the New York City Fire Department, and I have to get back to my family. We flew into South Carolina, but there was no flying out of South Carolina. There was no flying in or out of anywhere in the United States. We were on lockdown, and it would remain that way for several days. But over coffee that morning, we had a moment of clarity. We had 3 vans, 3 rental vans. We would simply take the van and drive back to New York City. Actually, we commandeered the van. And of course, if you worked for the rental company or you were in law enforcement, you would probably say they stole the van. But anyway, a little caravan went up I-95. We arrived in the New York area about 11 p.m. that night. Now, New York is surrounded by water. You can't get in or through New York without going over a bridge or through a tunnel. In our case, 2 bridges. That night, as we crossed those 2 bridges and we looked off to our left, we saw New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty standing guard over the harbor, and Lower Manhattan. And where we would expect to see those majestic twin towers was a huge column of smoke. And we could see it very clearly because it was lit up by all the emergency lighting. It gave a very eerie, ominous look. Not a word was spoken. And my thoughts immediately turned to Stephen and Danny, my 2 sons, because I knew they were over there. I knew the fire department had taken a big hit. And a good portion of my career I had spent at headquarters. So the next morning, I called headquarters and I offered my services. When I arrived in downtown Brooklyn at fire department headquarters, I stepped off the elevator, and there, walking down the hallway, was a 3-star staff chief, resplendent in his Class A uniform, minus his shoes, minus his socks, and his bare feet. The fire department had taken a big hit. We didn't know the numbers at that time. We knew we lost over 100 firefighters. We knew that most likely that we had lost probably 50% of our rescue personnel, 50% of our squad personnel, 50% of our hazmat personnel, over 90 department apparatus, and a good portion of our senior management. And I knew that they needed me right there. They needed me with my help right there that day at headquarters. And as I looked out the window across the East River to Lower Manhattan, to that smoke, I knew I had to go to ground zero. My friends were underneath that pile. I had to get there. And my sons were on top of that pile. Now, if you remember, you couldn't get to Lower Manhattan, below 14th Street, below Canal Street, excuse me, without going through a checkpoint. As we approached the checkpoint, and we rolled that window down to speak with the officer, that's when it hit me. The smell, that odor that wafted through the window. I'd never smelled anything like it in my life, and hopefully I'd never smell anything like that again. You could not describe it. It was the smell of death. It was the smell of destruction, the smell of the pile, the smell of ground zero. It was the smell of 9/11. When we arrived at the scene, we immediately went to the command center to report in. And as I got out of the vehicle, there was a chief there that I knew. And he was talking to me. But I could not this day tell you what he was saying, because my attention was riveted at the sight before me. 16 acres, 70-foot high pile of debris. 2 110-story buildings collapsed into that pile of debris, and you couldn't see a bowl, you couldn't see a sink, you couldn't see a desk, you couldn't see a chair, you couldn't see as much as a doorknob. Nothing in my 36 years in the fire department prepared me for the horror of that sight. All you could see was that 70 feet high pile of twisted steel and that god-awful gray black dust. And scampering all over that pile, first responders and firefighters. And that smell, that pervasive smell. I realized several things. Most likely we're not going to find anybody alive under that debris. In that organized chaos, very slim chance of me finding my son if they were there. And they didn't need me down there. So I quickly went back to headquarters, and for the next 6 months, I volunteered my services at headquarters, helping the fire department in whatever little way I could get back on its feet. It wasn't until 2 days later, at the first funeral, which was proved to be one of many, that I was reunited with my 2 sons, Danny and Stephen. There are no words to describe the depth of the feelings and the emotion I felt at that reunion. I remember all of this as if it happened yesterday. Thank you.